Hey everyone, it's Ryan with a Magic the Gathering Fast Finance tip. Today, Wizards of the Coast showed us more detailed images of the glass panes from the War of the Spark trailer, as well as new information about the set. Of them, all 36 of the walkers in the trailer will have Planeswalker cards, and Planeswalkers will be available at one per pack in a fashion similar to legendary creatures in Dominaria. Now, what does this mean for you? If you're someone enamored with Super Friends, it may be time to pick up these Super Friends staples. Thanks to Magic the Gathering Finance, a lot of these are already seeing movement, but are still definitely worth picking up. If you plan to, or even considering making Super Friends after War of the Spark, it might be a good idea to just keep an eye on these cards that are starting to move. In general, the obvious pickups are the Oath Cycle, so you see Oath of Chandra, Liliana, Jace, Gideon. Now those ones are great and all, but the two in particular I'd recommend picking up right now, whether you want to build some jank Super Friends in Modern, or you think it's going to become a real deck, or you want to build Super Friends in EDH, which tends to be popular with Atraxa or 5-color decks. You should really look into pick up something like Oath of Nissa or Oath of Teferi, as they directly enable the Planeswalkers. Oath of Nissa in particular is going to be really good because most Super Friends decks are going to be 5-color in some way, shape, or form, or 4-color, or some variation of that, and Oath of Nissa will help you fix the colors that you need for the deck. Oath of Teferi functions as just another good stuff card. The front ability, you're not going to really care about flickering a permanent. It might be a land, cool, or maybe you're flicking a walker that down-ticked and had to down-tick to survive or remove a dangerous threat, and now it's good to go for next turn. But it's really the second ability, the ability to activate two abilities in one turn. Not only does it make it so you can ultimate your Planeswalkers faster, it just makes some really mediocre effects quite good. Gideon the Trials in particular, it becomes exceedingly oppressive in Modern or sometimes in EDH. Not as often in EDH, but definitely in Modern. I recall playing a Jeskai Super Friends deck when Hazoret and Energy and what was it? Throne of the God Pharaoh were a big thing, and I can tell you, let me tell you, Oath of Teferi with Gideon the Trials was exceedingly oppressive to my opponents. Being able to lock down 2 creatures at a turn made it disgusting. Heck, even a Planeswalker like Dovin Bond, using his -3/0 can't activated abilities plus ability on 2 different creatures, or -6, -0 on 1 creature, just locked people out of the game. It was one of the most frustrating things, and it was all enabled because of Oath of Teferi. Oath of Teferi is a linchpin in a Super Friends deck. It's going to become exceedingly popular. When it came out, it was exciting and splashy for a lot of people, and then it died down because, Super Friends decks outside of EDH didn't do anything. But we were getting such a large mass of Planeswalkers in the upcoming set, assumedly at multiple rarity levels, that it just seems like a really safe buy at the price point. It's starting to tick up a little bit, as I already mentioned, Oath of Nissa, but I still feel like if you want to run the card, it's worth picking up. If you're trying to make a profit on it, it's probably too late, but yeah, what you gonna do? Another card that's being talked about deeply in the MTG Finance group, as well as in a lot of EDH group, is Deploy the Gatewatch. Collected Planeswalkers. The ability to dig 7 and then put 2 Planeswalkers onto the battlefield at sorcery speed while slow is really exciting. Now, does this have Modern application? Not really. They do say if something's expensive, it should win you the game. I'm sure there's some jank brew that could make a deck make that work, but it's just in a Super Friends deck, you have to cut down on the density by running more Mana Dorks to get that to go off sooner, or more Utopia Sprawls, or maybe there's some jank Tron builds with Oath of Nissa, but then Oath of Nissa isn't fixing your mana for the Deploy the Gatewatch, so this is mainly going to be an EDH card, but if you are an EDH player and you want to play Super Friends, and you don't already have Deploy the Gatewatch, or you want to build the deck later, pick yourself up a copy or 2. It's solid value. Now, some other less obvious one is one that many people consider to be a bad card, but I still consider to be at least halfway decent. Again, this is mainly going to be for Commander. I don't see this having Modern applications, and even when I was running Jeskai Super Friends in Standard, I chose not to run this because it was just a little too slow and a little too easy to remove. And that's Jeru with Eyes Wide Open. Eyes Wide Open. Jeru Eyes Wide Open gives slight protection to your Planeswalkers, but in addition to that, it's also a tutor. Now, when you're building a Planeswalker deck, a Super Friends deck, you'll notice that it actually becomes, once you have the tutors for it, like Call the Gatewatch or Jerry White Eyes Wide Open, it becomes more of a toolbox deck because you start pulling the walkers with the specific abilities you're looking for. And since each walker has 2 abilities that most of them can activate right away, it becomes quite good. I briefly dabbled with a Super Friends deck for a bit, and what did Jiru usually grab? Like, oh, there's an Ulamog on the field. Well, which of your creatures deals with it? Like, well, you can summon Karn. I didn't have Karn in the deck. Big Daddy Karn. So I was like, I'll play Jiru Eyes Wide Open. Okay. What are you tutoring for? Sarkhan the Mad. Oh. And I'll make sure to put that on the screen right there so you can see. Sarkhan the Mad has an interesting ability I like to call Dragon Within, and despite Sarkhan the Mad being considered a bad planeswalker, he's actually quite good in EDH. He can just make people destroyed. He's target removal for indestructible permanents. That makes him insanely good. And people are like, oh, they're left with this dragon, but no, they're left with a dragon and they lost an Ulamog or they lost an Avacyn, so you feel fine with that. Other than the direct Planeswalker synergy cards, like the other Ajanis that specifically kind of lead other Planeswalkers and give them buffs, other cards to look at are Legendary Matter cards. Since they changed the rules from Planeswalkers to be legendary, even cards like Untaidake, the Cloudkeeper, is a really good card that I'd strongly consider for that build. Untaidake, if you didn't know, is like I consider it a second Ancient Tomb if you have enough legendary permanents. It enters the battlefield tap, but then it's essentially an Ancient Tomb. The caveat being you can only use it to cast legendary spells. So that's a bit of a downer, but in a Planeswalker deck, that's the majority of your cards, so you're probably not going to mind. Other than that, cards that are already kind of like not cheap are like Captain Sisay. If you're looking for another budget tutor, Thalia's Lancers is always like a solid card. It's a body and a Planeswalker. And then I guess the only other thing would be the kind of cards that are already staples in the deck. Cards like Doubling Season, the Creature Bubbling Season, as everyone likes to call it, Deep Close Gate, and things like that. Possibly Inexorable Tide. You're going to have a high concentration of cards with counters and things that count counters. So that's probably good. What's the new hotness? Oh, Imaginative Rascal. That card is exceedingly good. The reason is because its ability, unlike Doubling Season, so Doubling Season happens every time a Planeswalker would enter the battlefield. It, however, does not proc as part of it a cost. Imaginative Rascal, on the other hand, does. So if you're just using any Planeswalker and use its plus ability, it will get an additional counter because does check just in general to see if a counter or token or whatever was added. So is really solid. I know he's seeing a lot more play in general. I've even heard people running some Jank Legacy Brews, which is kind of cool. But that's one that I'd strongly consider. If it's worth it to you to pick up for your Super Friends deck, because you're going to find that added value is a lot more than you'd expect. Another go-to card that everyone likes to put in the deck is Chain Veil. The Chain Veils move so much that I'm not even sure if it's worth going in on. It was originally printed in a core set, so I feel like it could be reprinted in any set that Liliana's in or any set that's a Planeswalker heavy set. Like, if you told me that War was going to have a Chain Veil in it, or a Chain Veil-like ability, I'd go like, yeah. One, Liliana's in the story, she has a Chain Veil, it's a Planeswalker theme set. Why wouldn't they have this big splashy mythic reprint? Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. I'm still new to this whole video making thing, so if you have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment below. Tell me what a piece of shit I am. Whatever you feel like, really. Anyway, happy hunting, and I hope this was helpful.